Alrighty, we are live. Folks, if you can just let me know, as you normally do, just let me know that now you can see me. Let me know that you can hear me as well. I can see the bars moving, so all should be good. So just let me know that all this is running. But folks, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to see so much stuff going on in the chat room. We've got people from all over the place. We've got Canada, America, we've got Germany, Spain, Wales, of all places. 𝐷𝐼, whose picture we retouched last week, he's also watching again tonight. You'll see his handle is Chopper O'Toole. My mate Dave Clayton, he's back from the USA. He's in there. Brian Dukes, good old Brian Dukes, ever faithful. He's there as well. Lee. So yeah, great to see so many folks coming in. Listen, tonight it's going to be just a little bit, I say controversial, but I want to get your opinion on something because tonight has been motivated by an email that I had come through after last week's live when we actually did retouch 𝐷𝐼 O'Toole's portraits and we used artificial intelligence to get the hair on the sides. All right. So, but before we get into that, there's just a couple of things that I want to mention. First of all is to do with this. This is coming up very soon. I think today we've got the notification that we can advertise it. The Photoshop Virtual Summit number 5. I can't believe it's the 5th one. Is coming up very, very soon, October the 30th through November the 3rd. These have always been massively successful. So you can get a free pass for this. 20 instructors, over 30 plus hours of stuff. I've got a link in the description, but also there's the shortened link that you can use there for it. I'll obviously be talking more about that as we kind of lead up through the weeks before the Photoshop Virtual Summit, but get your free pass. You know, you've got nothing to lose. Sign up for your free pass. If you use it, great. If you don't, you've lost nothing. But at least register for it because they do stop being released at a certain stage. I don't know when that is, but just make sure that you get one anyway. The other thing to mention, and this is purely again because of an email that had come through, not an email, somebody mentioned it to me, is this thing. I'm going to press it now. Where are we? Let's just press it. There you go. This thing here, this subscribe thing. All right. You know that at the end of every broadcast, every recorded video that I do, I always ask that people subscribe because it's a great way that you can show support for the channel. But I had somebody ask me the other day, they say they watch the stuff, but they haven't clicked on it because what does it mean? How much does it cost and stuff? It doesn't cost anything. It makes no difference to you whatsoever. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay anything, but it makes a huge difference to me. So if you haven't subscribed, just click on it and that'll be it. You won't have to do anything ever again. All right. So that's the only thing that I wanted to mention. But let's get into this evening. This is the email that I had come through. I've blocked out who it was from, but let me just kind of highlight the main part of it. And I'll read this out. It says, from the person, we would like to raise this question with you. In your video, you use new fill method, which is the artificial intelligence, to extend and add whisker hair to your subject. Does this method use original pixels in the image or are they generated by some reference to material on Adobe's servers? Now, this is all to do with this person asking me if they really like the technique, but could they use it in their retouching because their camera club that they belong to are very strict about the use of artificial intelligence. Basically say you can't use it. And this was really interesting to me because what it made me think was, well, look, all I used that for last week in this picture here of 𝐷𝐼 was to sort out and fix the hair on either side of his beard, because in the original picture that I took of him, the out of camera picture, it was really hard to pick up those fine hairs. Now, as you saw, artificial intelligence worked really, really well. But if I hadn't used artificial intelligence, I would have used another method, which I've done lots of videos about in the past, where I would use somebody else's hair from another picture and blend that in. So my kind of thoughts were, if it's okay to use another picture, another stock image maybe, to use those hairs in the picture of 𝐷𝐼 to make it look like it was really his beard, what's the problem with using artificial intelligence, which is the machine learning using another image to... I'm going to play devil's advocate, but I want you to kind of have a think about it. Is it okay? Why is it okay to do one and not the other? Use the chat if you're watching this live. If you're watching this afterwards, use the comment section because I really want to get a feel for how people kind of feel about this. But going through all of this, this is what's motivated what I want to go through tonight. So I'm just going to bring up Photoshop. Let me dive over to my desktop and I want to just go through some things that I'm kind of using artificial intelligence for which I think is an ethical way of using it. I don't, there's a lot of people, it's very controversial. People's talking about artificial intelligence. Can we use it? Can't we use it? It's stealing our creativity. But I want to show you, which hopefully last week showed you, and the most recent pre-recorded video I did showed you, that it's a tool. That's all it is a tool. All right. And we can use it to help us go through and sort of carry out tasks that are very time consuming and really difficult, so that we can then get on with the creative side of it. For example, let me just move myself out of the way here. Now, this portrait that you see on screen here is a really old portrait. I think I took this maybe 10, 11 years ago or something like that. Let's just move this out of the way here. But you can see the problem with this picture here is that my backlight was way too bright. I hadn't exposed correctly here, so the hair is kind of blown out. So this is how I was just having a bit of a play with it earlier today, a way that you could use artificial intelligence. So what I'm going to do is, because otherwise you'd have to use, all kinds of things like, frequency separation or whatever to try and recover the detail. But check this out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a brush and I'm going to make a selection of the area on the right-hand side of the head here, camera right, to try and fix this here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use Quick Mask rather than using a regular kind of selection tool. I think it'd be easier to do this with a brush. So I'm going to get a brush, but first of all, let me just dive into Quick Mask over in the toolbar. And I've got this changed here. Hopefully you can see this on your screen. By default, it would say masked areas, but I want it to be selected areas because it's only a small area that I want to select. So it's an easier way of using it by painting in what I want rather than painting out all of the stuff that I don't want. So I use selected areas. Now, because I'm using this Quick Mask in the opposite way to what it would ordinarily be used, I have to use the opposite color. Ordinarily, when we're making selections, we have white is the selected area, black is not the selected area. But I've swapped around how I'm using Quick Mask, so I have to use the opposite color. So black is what I paint with to make a selection. All right, if that makes sense. So what I'll do then, I'm going to make sure that this is nice and soft. And we'll just kind of make a selection of this area down here. So I'm just going to brush over, a nice soft brush to select, say, this area just here. And I just want to show you what I think are completely ethical ways, and maybe ways you haven't thought of using this kind of stuff. All right. And also have a bearing in mind now, would this be acceptable? If you're a member of a camera club, would this be acceptable in a camera club? All right. So now that we've got the Quick Mask, we press Q to come out of it. And you can see now we've got the marching ant selection there. So all I'm going to do is we go to this contextual text bar here, click on generative fill. And like last week, I'm not even going to bother typing in what I want. I'm just going to click on generate. The latest update now, we've got this little box here that tells you can keep clicking generate to get better versions. So that's a new update in the latest one that came out a couple of days ago. But let's have a look and see what this does here. Give it a few seconds and look. All right. Now, here we've got three variations, first of all, to fix the blown out hair. We've got that one, we've got that one, and we've got that one. Now, for me, that is completely and utterly brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love it. Somehow I would have had to fix it, all right? And it could have meant, because there was blown out detail there, that I would have used somebody else's hair and masked it in and painted it in with a brush. So what is the problem with doing this? Is there a problem? Okay, again, I'm throwing it back at you. Controversial topic, this AI, but this isn't me taking away what I've done as a photographer. This is assisting me with my retouching. So it's purely a tool. So it's just, yeah, so I think that's just amazing. And obviously I could just keep on clicking on generate there to kind of get more alternative versions of it. Now, something else, let's have a look at this one here. This is a lion cutout. Again, this is an old image that I had. Let's just drag this out of the way just over here. This is an old image that I did when I was working on like an animals project that I actually love to do. And this was photographed, I believe, at Woburn Safari Park. And if I just show you the original image, there you go. There's the original image. This was a lion that was in, obviously, a compound, thankfully. And it was behind this mesh here. I've got a very wide open aperture. You can just see the blurry kind of fencing just there. In fact, talking of the fencing, this is another example of one of the shots that I took just there. And I was chatting to my friend Brian, who's in the chat room right now, and he asked me about this. Do you know when I did this picture, right? And I've done a video on this showing how you can remove all those great bits of fencing off the rest of the picture and off the lion. I showed that, I did the video for it on my YouTube channel going back a few years ago. I even had somebody in the comments afterwards say to me, well, why didn't you just go the other side of the fence to take the picture and save yourself the effort of doing that in Photoshop? Yeah. Okay. Right. Anyway, the thing I was going to show you with this here again, it's using artificial intelligence purely to help me out, and that's this remove tool that we've got in Photoshop. So let's have a look over it. In the toolbar, we press J, and we've got this new remove tool. And this is incredible. What I really like about it is the fact that we can use it on a blank layer. We don't have to create a duplicate layer to increase the file size. We can use it on a blank layer. When we do that, we just need to make sure that at the very top in the options bar, we have the tick that says sample all layers. But check this out. I've got it to work so that every time I use it and then release, it will then process it. But let's have a look here. We've got this stuff on the side here. I'm just going to paint over it. We get this kind of pink overlay. And let's just see what it does. Because in the actual video I did originally, this took a long time to do. A long, long time. So I'll just paint over it. I'll release. Artificial intelligence gets to work, sends it to the cloud, and bang. I mean, it's not perfect, but look, that's definitely better than what I would have done as quick. But look, I can just keep going over it and start to remove it really, really quickly. So that already, look, we're going from there to there just by using one tool. Now, when I used it on the lion, this is where, see, this is the thing about artificial intelligence. People think it's going to replace what we do. It isn't. It does have its limitations. Obviously, at the moment, this is in beta. It is going to get better. The arguments about the actual things that it generates being low res is going to go, because we're expecting that when it is fully released, it isn't going to be limited to 1024 by 1024 pixels. So that's going to disappear. But there will still be limitations. And this is a perfect example just here. Let me just show you on this. Oh, you don't two of me. Let's go just here. So what I'll do is this area here, let's say we can see the fencing where it's actually affecting the lion. If I try to remove that now, let's say just there, and then do it, it kind of looks okay, I guess. But let's try this bit here. What you're going to find is, you'll probably notice this more if I zoom in and turn off and on. Can you see how it's not just removed the greyness of the fence, but it's actually started to change the look of the fur, and it's going to be limited. If I do it down here, it kind of shows even more. If I go to this part, let's say, it becomes like it's almost like there's repeating patterns. So this kind of shows, yes, there are limitations. So look now, if I turn that off and on, doesn't look so good. All right. So this kind of shows that there are limitations with this. It isn't going to completely replace what we do. I think we've got to start to think about this as purely a tool. And of course, there will be those people. There always will be. When we have something good, there'll always be those that push it and they kind of abuse it. But, you know, we folks are going to use this to the best way that we can to assist us in our retouching. Okay, that's how I think it is anyway. All right, let's just, oh, blimey, let's just go back to here now then. Right, so the next thing I want to show you is this, and this is going back to the picture of Di that I show. We retouched him last week, the close-up portrait of him. But again, just that remove tool here. This is where the lighting was done. In fact, let me just go to my Lightroom. Let's see if I can show you the Lightroom and the lighting. I did a blog post on this, and you can see the lighting here. Here's my friend Anthony. He's holding this FJ200 light. I'll put a link to the blog post in the description so you can have a read through that if you want as well, so you can see the kit we used. But that's the lighting. Now, with the lighting side of things, you'll see it in the blog post. You'll see there's not a softbox on there. That's because we'd climbed up this kind of big hill, which I'm going to call a mountain. And that would have been really hard to control with a softbox on it. So we used a hard light source, a big kind of reflector. But the thing with that is, if I aim it straight at Di, the middle pit is the hardest bit, and it's going to create hard light. So you just aim it past him. So you get the outer bit, the feathered edge of it hits him. So that's how you can get soft light from a hard light source. All right. So let's have a look now then. So the thing with this picture of Di is, even though we'd kind of feathered the light and it was nice lighting on him, we still did have these objects in front of his leg, like this walking cane, where we need to get rid of it. And that remove tool is insane for this. Because again, this would be a difficult thing to remove, because we've got creases which we need to maintain to, you know, keep the realism of what we've got here. But look, if I just brush over with the remove tool, let's go down to about there. Let's see how this does, and then release. I mean, come on, that's good. I didn't even do that on a new layer. Look, let's create a new layer so we can keep it all non-destructive. So let's go to there again. There's lots of detail in these trousers here, but look, it keeps it all. absolutely fantastic. And actually, on the subject of artificial intelligence, this here was the final picture that I did of Di, and that's had a lovely response on socials when I've shared it. But you'll be the first to see this. That is the original. That is the original image. So that one there, the photography that people say it's going to replace, couldn't be replaced because I had to photograph him. I had to light him. He had to pose him, all that. The rest of it, though, I couldn't have got further back because I'd have fallen a long way down. The rest of it was created with AI. So we've gone from that there to that there. So my question then, is that okay? I'm not talking about Camera Club on this particular one, but what's your thoughts on that? Because as a photographer, I've done what I would have to do, which is compose it. I've also done the lighting. So all that stuff is right. I've just built what I couldn't get at the time I was there. It physically wouldn't have been possible to do it. Now I can see here, I can see there's loads of activity going on in the chat. I can see that David's just put here, David's put, there's still a human input. Absolutely. And I think that is the key thing. You know, there is definitely a human input there that I'm doing the lighting. The rest of it is being used to help me create what I want to create. So let's have a quick look here. Any of the comments? We'll come back to the comments as we go through this because there are some things I want to go through without taking up too much of your time. So let's go back to my desktop and we'll go back to Photoshop. So this here is something that Brian, who's in the chat there, I asked him yesterday if he had any images that were difficult to cut out. And this is one of those very images. It's taken a while back now by Brian. So I'm sure now Brian would have zero problems cutting this out, but he's been very kind to send this over of this picture of this dog that he's done. And this kind of shows the issue. If I just zoom in, this dog had incredibly fine hair, all these very, very fine bits. And you can see here, we've got these slight kind of halo-y bits over it. So quite a difficult shot to sort of cut out there, picture to cut out. You can see here, even though it's a light background, these fine hairs can be quite challenging. So I want to go through something which isn't going to use AI. And the reason I'm not going to use AI for this particular one is because if you owned this dog, if you were having a portrait of this dog, that's not a puppy. You've had that dog a while. You know everything about that dog. You know the way that its fur looks. You know that it's got these lovely tufts on top of its head and its ears are really fluffy. If I tried to use artificial intelligence to fix that, it ain't going to work because it's not going to replicate exactly what that dog's fur's like. Does that make sense? So that's why I wouldn't use artificial intelligence with this, because it's going to somebody who knows the dog, they want a picture of it and they'll go, that doesn't look quite right. So this is where we have to use the tools. In fact, let me just dive back because I want to just quickly show you this. Oh, I'm doing this again here, two of them. Let me just dive back over to the line cutout because this is something I did actually want to show you. Let's just go to this. This is going to show you why I won't do this on the dog. This, if I just zoom in, you can see now, look, can you see how when I've done this cutout, you've still got, even though I worked really hard on this, you've still got edges that don't look good. Now, on something like this, I would consider using artificial intelligence because look what I can do. I'm going to get the brush again, and again, I'll go into quick mask. And let's just say I'll work in a small area just now. Let's just go for this bit just here. I'll paint over it. You'll notice that I'm covering a part of the actual original mane and a part of the background around it. So let's just go to maybe somewhere like that. Then what I'll do is we'll come out of quick mask. You can see our selection just there. Click on generative fill and click on generate. And let's just see what it does. It might work, it might not, but it won't look like the original. But for something like this, we can get away with it, okay, because it's not a pet dog. But let's have a look. I mean, look at that. That's looking pretty good. Pretty damn good if you ask me. And you can see if I zoom in, we've got no halo in, no nothing. So that would be a fantastic thing to use in something like this when I'm looking to do a cutout. However, when it comes to this picture here of this dog, which I believe is called Harvey, it ain't going to work. So let me just show you how I would maybe approach this, a few different ways I'd do it. I won't cut the whole of the dog out. I'm just going to do his head. But I know that Brian mentioned about the tail being cut off as well. So this is how I'd just fix that. We've got the crop tool. In the latest beta version of Photoshop, if you go to the options bar, you've got where it says fill and you've got a number of options. Background is default. generative expand or content aware fill. Now I'll use the generative expand because all that will mean I can do now is I can drag outwards, like say to here, let go, press return, and automatically now the AI gets to work to see if it can kind of fix what needs to be fixed. And it takes roughly 10 to 12 seconds, something like that. Let's have a quick look now if it comes in, and there you go. So something like that. I don't know what this dog's tail the end of the tail looks like, but I'm guessing it's not going to be too dissimilar to that. So maybe, Brian, that could be something that would work for that. But let's just go back to this image here, and I'll show you how I would approach cutting this out. I'll get the quick selection tool. Again, there's loads of ways you can do this, but this is one way. Quick selection tool, and I'm going to move it over the head here, like so. Hopefully you can see this on the resolution that you're able to watch this live, like so. So at the moment, I've just selected the head. Now, when we do this, the trick I find that works best is to kind of remove the selection from areas where you can see the actual background coming through the hair. Okay, so you've got the hair, you can see the background through here. So I would remove that, and we do that by holding down the Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows and using the selection tool to move that selection away from those areas where you can see the background. All right, so I'll just move around it here, just getting rid of it so that we don't see the background coming through the hair. Just bring that down just a touch there. Let's have a look around here. You can see the background on that bit. Come up here to get rid of it off there. Let's look at, this bit at the top as well. Something like that. There we go. Yeah, okay. Oh, and this bit just here as well. All right, so once you've got that, hopefully this is all going to work because it was playing up earlier on. Once you've got that, we're using a selection tool. So in the options bar, we've got the option here now to use select and mask. So I'll go into select and mask. I love using the onion skin view, which allows us to use this transparency slider so that we can kind of bring the original background in or not. So we can control it from around about here. So I'm going to bring it so that I can kind of just about see that background. Then in the options bar at the top of here, we've got the refine hair button. This is what wasn't working earlier on. But if I click on refine hair, let's see if it does anything. Oh, it's not doing it. It's not doing it for some reason. It's not doing it. It wasn't doing it. Right, let's have a look here. See if Smart Radius does anything for us. Let's bring up this. For some reason, this was playing up earlier on, and it just kind of, it was lame. It didn't do anything. Let's just see now if I can start to sort of select some of the hairs here. No, I can't. Right, I'm going to come out of here. Let's just cancel that. This, I'm going to put this down to the fact that this is the beta version, and it's kind of getting a bit temperamental. But let's have a look again. We've got our selection. We'll go back into select and mask. Let's try this onion skin in view and then refine hair. See if that does anything. No, it's not going to do it. Oh, well, there you go. I'll tell you what I will do. I'm going to come out of there. Let's just get rid of that. We're not going to give up too easily. Let me just jump back so you can see me just there. What I'll do is I'll close Photoshop down because there's only a couple of other little things I want to show. Let's just close Photoshop down, and I'm going to get rid of everything that we've done so far just so that we can restart Photoshop to see if it works. So let's just go back to my screen. Right, so Photoshop beta is closed. Let's just now see if we can open it up and see if this works. Fingers firmly crossed that this allows us to work, because this is something I really want to show you, that it goes to show that we can't just rely on AI now that it's around. We've got to still make use of those manual tools and manual skills that we've kind of learned over the years. Let's just try this again. Let's make a quick selection. Hopefully this will work. If not, I shall have to do a pre-record just to kind of get this out to you. Right, again, let's just remove the bits that we don't want where we can see that background coming through. Just over there and there. It might have been because I had quite a few images open, and I don't know. We'll see. Right, so something like that will be fine. Now the moment of truth. Let's go into select and mask. Let's go to that onion skinning, and then let's just try refine. Oh, you can see it skipped. It tried to do something, but it just isn't having it. It's just not having it at all. And even if I use the refine edge brush tool, let's have a look here. Try and paint on it. Look, it's not doing anything. It's not having it. No idea. No idea. That's not working. Right. We will cancel that, and we're going to We'll come back to it. We'll come back to that at some point. I'm not going to let this beat me, even if it means doing a pre-record. All right. So let me just show this other thing then. So let's just close this. I'll get rid of that selection and we'll get rid of that. The last thing then I'll show you just for now is this particular image here. Let's just get this one. Let's just bring this up. This is a scan of a picture, which is this one just here. This one just here. This is a photograph that I've been given just temporarily of two gentlemen. You might recognize the guy over the side here. This is David Edwards. Lovely guy. You remember we did a couple of weeks back, retouched a picture of Di Edwards, which is his wife. And he sat here with a guy called Tom Griffiths, because there's a school in France named after these two men, because during the war, they liberated a particular area of France called Mondrianville. And the school now is named after them, called École Edwards Griffith. All right. So the school are doing an amazing thing. They're creating this mural, beautiful area at the back of the school where Tom's picture, David's picture, and some kind of artistry is going to be done to kind of show the story of what happened. Okay. Now they've got a picture of David because I did his portrait, but they haven't got a picture of Tom. This is the only picture we seem to have access to of Tom. And they've said, the family said to me, could I do something with this so it's just Tom? All right. This, I think, here is just the most incredible use of AI, because this is something personal. All right. This is something really personal. This is where technology shines, because yes, you could do this manually. It would take you a long time, but let me just show you what I've kind of figured out I can do with this image with AI. Let's just go to my, I keep pressing two of me. Let's just go to my desktop. So the first thing I'll do, I'll unlock this layer just here. So I just need to have Tom. Okay, so I'm going to get my lasso tool. I can be quite loose with this. I'll get the lasso tool and I'm going to make a selection down here, just on the side of Tom. I'll come down the side of his face and then just follow his jacket just a little bit all the way down here. And there, and then go to the very, very bottom, come round, up the top, and then join it together. Let me zoom out to make sure I've got it all in. I haven't. So let's just make sure we'll add to that down the bottom. So there's what I've got of Tom. Now I'm going to invert that. So we go Shift Command I or Shift Control I if you're on Windows. So now that's obviously on David, and I'm just going to press delete. All right. So now that we've got that. So now that I've got that particular bit there, I think we've still got our active selection. If I zoom in, you just about see the marching ant selection. What I'll then do is expand it, because when we use content, when we use the artificial intelligence, we need to include some of the original image so it kind of overlaps. So the intelligence goes, right. So it's got to be follow on from this bit here. Let's have a look at what you've got. And it then knows what it needs to do. So with this here, what I'll do with that selection, I'll just go to select. We'll go to modify and expand. And I'll go for something like 10 pixels and click OK. So now look, when I zoom in, you can see that now it does overlap like so. Now that we've got that, the contextual taskbar here, or text bar, is now active. It's got generative fill, and I'll just click on it and then click on generate. Again, I'm not using any text prompts. We'll give it a chance to have a think, see what it needs to do. It might not work the first time, but like that little marker says there, that little box says, if it doesn't work the first time, I can click generate again to see if it will do anything better. But I mean, look at this. This is already looking good. Look. I mean, look at that. Absolutely. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how long it would take to actually recreate that? All right. For the purpose that this is needed for. But now look, we've also got the generative fill where we can use the crop tool. So I've got the crop tool here. Again, in that fill bit just at the top here, we can either have it as the transparent, and that would just be the regular option there where you'd kind of expand it and nothing happens, or we can choose generative expand. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag, say, let's go to say there, and we'll have a little bit more at the top, give him a bit more headroom, maybe a touch more down the bottom, and just go for a little bit more on the side, something like that. And again, I know that, you know, at the moment it's in beta. If I do too big an area, it's going to be res. That's going to go. All right, let's learn how to use this now for when it comes out fully and we can take advantage of those pixels. So this is now the composition I'm going to go for. Let's now have a quick look at this. Once I've got it, I'm just going to press on the enter or return key. It starts kicking into action. We can see the progress bar moving along. It takes roughly, I don't know, 10, 12 seconds, something like that. And let's have a look, see what happens. Any taking that? I mean, look, all right, we get 3 options. That's pretty good, isn't it? That is seriously impressive. So now, you know, I've managed to remove David Edwards from this picture, totally change the composition. So now they do have a picture of Tom. I think that is an incredible use of artificial intelligence, because that would take a long time to do that. So I can actually give this back to them straight away to say, there you go. So I love it, right? I'm going to give Photoshop a little bit of a breather. Let's have a quick dive into the chat, because I know there's been quite a few of these questions. So we'll have a look, see what we've got there. So let's have a look, see what we can get on the questions. And let's have a see if there's anything controversial. I don't know. I'm really interested to get your opinions on what you think of this. So bear with me while I just have a quick scoot through. Stuart Wood, Adobe broke it again. Yeah. Do you know what? It was doing it. It did it great throughout this afternoon. Only once did it start to play up. And there you go. It did it again. So let's have a. I want to just quickly find if there's anything. Let's have a look. This is an interesting one. What you make on the picture for the guy on the mountain can also be done before AI with composition. So actually, you don't make anything bad. Just spit. Great. Okay, that's great. Yeah, and you're right. It could be done with compositing. This is the interesting thing, isn't it? Compositing can be, as I understand it, because I'm not a member of a camera club, compositing is accepted. I guess there's different categories of, you know, pictures that you enter anyway. But if compositing can be accepted in a certain category, could AI be used in that example like we had with Dai, where I've made the rest of that mountain that I physically could not have photographed, even with a wider lens, couldn't have done it. Dai would have been tiny. It'd have been really, really wide. Had the drama that it did have. So yeah, interesting. Let's have a quick look. That dog picture there that we've not managed to do just yet, Brian. I think that's the one you're referring to. 40 hours, blimey. Okay, so Mark Harris, my friend Mark Harris, has put it's definitely okay to use it in that way, but it may not be okay for a competition. Yeah, I kind of get that. So there's some great comments coming in. Okay, Mark and French True been away for yeah, loads and loads of comments. I don't want to spend too long looking through them, but it's going to make some interesting reading. So, you know, I will keep those to see kind of what people's opinions are. But it really fascinated me when I did that, when I had that email through, that I thought, what's the difference? What is the difference between using hair off another picture that I then mask in manually or getting AI to do it? You know, I'm not getting the AI to photograph the person or anything. That's down to me. But I'm using it as part of my retouching. But let's just see. I'm going to go try one more time. All right, I'm going to close Photoshop again. I'm going to try one more time. Dare I try it one more time? Let's just dive over to my desktop. Let's just open up Photoshop. While this is working, don't forget, we've got the old subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Let's just open the image up of this dog, this lovely dog, and come on, Photoshop beta. You know you can do this. If it doesn't work here, it didn't actually, it's the same. When it crashed earlier, it actually did the same in regular Photoshop as well. So there's no point in me jumping over to the regular one. I don't know what the problem is, but we'll sort of see what we can do. Let's just take a quick selection just here. I'll just do it very, very quick. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. We'll now go to select and mask. Oh, blimey. Right, here we go. Onion skin. I know if it's going to work if I click on this refine hair and it does nothing. If it doesn't do anything, we're stuffed. Oh, there you go. It worked. Get in there. Persistence pays. All right. Persistence pays. Right. Now, Brian, hold on. This is how we can do this. So that refine hair, yes, it does do great. That's absolutely brilliant, that refine hair button just up there. I don't know if that was there when you were doing it the first time around, but that was a fairly new addition to this Dex. Well, I don't even know where I am now. This select and mask area here. But now that we've got, I'll click on Smart Radius over on the right-hand side, and then very gradually start to bring up the radius bar. You don't go too much with this, because you start to pick up stuff that you really don't want. But already we can start to see we're picking up some of these very, very fine hairs on the side just here. I can change the view, because I love to use that onion skinning. But if we go to the black and white view, you can see now, look, there we are, really starting to pick some of these hairs in. And if I bring up that refine radius there, just look a little bit more, little bit more. Now, there will be a limit to how far you can bring that up before you start bringing in the original background. So we'll leave it something like that. All right, let's just go back to that onion skinning view. At the bottom, I'll just put this as a layer mask, and then we'll click OK. So that'll bring it in. We've masked everything out. Obviously, we can't see the rest of the dog. It's just there. I'll put a layer beneath it, and I'll just fill that with grey, because I know that when Brian did this original picture, it's quite a dark grey background. Let's just fill it with grey so we can see what we've got. So here we go. This is what we have at the moment. This is the kind of thing that Brian had a little bit of, not as bad as this when Brian did it, but that's the kind of thing he had there. So how can we fix this? Again, Photoshop being Photoshop, there's countless ways we can do this. Loads and loads of ways we can do this. I'm not going to do all of them right now, but I'll do a few. I won't use AI for the reasons that I said, because we've got to maintain the integrity of this dog's kind of look. And if I use AI like I did with the lion, it's going to recreate the fur not to look like it did, even though it would still look good. It's not going to be how this dog looks. All right. So let's kind of see what we can do. One of the first things you could try is coming down to the FX at the bottom and using something like inner glow. All right. Now you can change what that glow is. Can you see how that inner glow now has picked up all these really fine hairs? So you can see there, just there. You could also click on the color picker, bring it over and sample the color of the actual dog's hair just there to see if you can get it to blend even better. But obviously the problem now is that we've got this kind of dark line going around it. So what you could do here, you could click OK. There in the layers panel, we see where that effect is, where it says inner glow. If I put my cursor over that and right click, at the bottom, it says create layer. So it's going to turn this layer effect into a layer. So we'll click on create layer, and now you can see that at the top. Let me just zoom touch. So now look, if I turn that off and on, and if I just show you that layer only, let's have a look here. That one off and turn it on. Let's just get rid of that there and there. So this is basically what it's showing me. That there, that color that you can see going around this middle bit that's missing, is the color that's been attached to the dog, like so. Now that we've got that, you could add a layer mask to it. You get a brush, a black brush, and then you'd have to be very, very careful the way that you came in and kind of painted it away, like so. The only problem with this is that because we've used that one layer effect, we've got the same color being attached to the hair all the way around the top of the dog. You could use it, you could use this maybe, just be very careful how you remove that line that goes around the top where you can see it kind of meeting the original dog's head, but that is one way that you could do it. Another way you could do it possibly is simply by adding a new blank layer and then creating a clipping mask so that whatever is on this layer is only visible on the visible parts of the layer below. And the only visible parts are the dog's head. So let's just create that clipping mask. We then get a brush. Let's just zoom in. We can then, now that we've got this brush, we can then hold down the Option key on Mac or Alt key on Windows, sample the dog's hair color, and then you can kind of start to paint it in like so. Can you see that now? Look, I mean, look at that. Be careful how you paint it in, but you can see how you can use that to really pick up all those fine hairs, like so. Now, when you're doing this kind of stuff, you don't want to be kind of too picky about how it looks on a very plain background. When you're doing the compositing, as I remember when I used to do a lot of it, you've got to think with what background you're going to have in mind for it later on. So you can get away with it not looking perfect. And as long as you, as what Joel Grimes used to say, sell the fake, then it's good. It's all good to go. But there's two ways that, Brian, maybe you could have looked at, maybe if you're doing it. But I appreciate now you'd probably do those anyway, because it was a while since you did that picture of the dog, as we know. But there you go. That's all I want to do. That's all I want to go through this evening. It's a bit of a quicker one, 39 minutes. I'm so glad that that Photoshop did do that for me right at the very end. So I will look through your comments, folks. Thank you so much for doing those, for putting those comments in, get your thoughts on it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button. That's a big, big help. It really is a huge help. It's just a lovely thing when you see that subscribe count go up, because you know that what you're doing, people are tuning into and they're kind of liking the comment. And I'm loving doing these live things as well. It's great to see so many people here. I've seen Ian, my friend Ian Monroe's in the room as well, which is brilliant. I've seen Mike Slater's there. So yeah, this is really, really cool. And like Brian says, and yes, please like the video. It also helps. It really, really does. So I'm going to sign out. Just a reminder, check out the description part of the video for the Photoshop Virtual Summit. Folks, these are brilliant. They have been incredibly successful. I'd probably say the most successful online event with Photoshop that you'll ever get to watch. You get to watch the classes for completely for free for 48 hours when they've launched, and there is a VIP subscription payment that you can do as well. But get your pass, get your free pass, get it in the bag. If you use it, brilliant. If you don't, you've lost nothing. But folks, that's it. I'm going to get out of this hot office and I'm going to make a move. Thank you so much for joining me. I really, really appreciate it wherever you are. So have a good morning, afternoon, and evening. And I will see you in a week's time for the next YouTube Live.